They threw her into the arena like trash, a limp body in a tattered yellow dress, barely conscious. The crowd erupted, not in sympathy but in anticipation. They weren't here for justice. They were here for blood. The woman on the ground, nameless to most of them, was labeled a dissident, a smuggler, a problem. The charges didn't matter. The outcome was predetermined. Above her, the metal colossus descended from the bay doors, thunder in its wake. 2 meters tall, black armored plates, red optic sensors, standard galactic combat frame, Mark 7. The pinnacle of Imperial enforcement tech. A neural-synced AI interface ran combat patterns faster than any biological mind could process. It wasn't sentient. It didn't need to be. It only needed to kill. The crowd roared as the woman coughed, spat dust, and tried to rise. Her arms shook. Her legs wouldn't respond. Her dress was torn, stained with blood and grime. Her left shoulder was visibly dislocated. And yet, she looked up at the machine standing before her, not with fear, but with fury. The announcer's voice thundered across the arena, mechanical and cold. Subject 0037. Human female. No military training. Charges: subversion, unauthorized technology possession, incitement. Execution by dual authorized. No applause. Just silence. Then a slow hum from the machine's chest as plasma coils charged. The AI calculated 27 ways to kill her in under 3 seconds. 18 were non-lethal. It selected none of them. The woman rolled to the side just as the first energy bolt struck the ground, incinerating sand into glass. A whisper passed through the crowd. She shouldn't have dodged that. She was supposed to die instantly, screaming. The machine adjusted. Target acquisition recalibrated. It approached with surgical precision. She was on her feet now, barely. One arm hung useless at her side. She blinked away blood from a cut above her eye. The machine raised its arm again, palm glowing. This time she didn't dodge. She moved forward. Confused the targeting AI for half a second. That half second cost it. She slammed her shoulder into the machine's leg. Not to hurt it, but to get closer. Her other hand, bloodied and trembling, slid under a panel near the machine's hip. The panel popped open with a hiss. The crowd gasped. 100,000 eyes leaned forward. The AI processed the breach. Threat level escalated. Emergency subroutine initiated. The machine kicked her backward with crushing force. Her body flew across the arena, skidding through sand. But the damage was done. Sparks danced from the machine's side. A hidden fuse had been pulled. It staggered. Just a little. Enough for the observers to murmur. The Empire's prize toy wasn't infallible. She rose again. Bones fractured. Vision doubled. But she stood. Somehow. Blood soaked her yellow dress. Her bare feet dragged. But she never looked away from the machine. She reached into her waistband and pulled out a shard of metal. Thin, curved, sharp. A blade made from repurposed stealth drone plating. Illegal, untraceable, nearly invisible to scans. It glinted just once before she moved. She ran. The machine charged. The arena lights dimmed as the system rerouted power to security override systems. Officials scrambled in their booths. This wasn't protocol. The crowd didn't care. They were screaming now. For her. For the fight. For chaos. She ducked under the machine's swing, slid across the sand, and slashed upward. The blade found a joint in its armor. Sparks again. Then oil. Then silence. The machine froze for 2 full seconds. A failsafe kicked in. Backup systems attempted reboot. She didn't give them the chance. With a primal scream, she jumped onto its back, drove the blade into the exposed panel she'd opened earlier, and twisted. Something inside ruptured. Smoke burst from its neck vents. The AI stuttered, tried to reroute commands. Its limbs spasmed. She was thrown off again hard. Her body landed with a sickening crunch. But the machine fell too. The arena went silent. No one moved. Not the guards. Not the watchers. Not even the Emperor's proxy in the royal box. For 30 seconds, all of Galactic Command stared at a broken woman who had just brought down a war machine with nothing but grit, pain, and a stolen blade. Then came the scream. Not from her, but from the machine. Its AI core went into fail-safe overdrive, cycling through languages, threat assessments, alerts. Unauthorized override detected. Human profile recognized. Class Red Prime. Alert. Threat designation mismatch. The machine's speakers barked a phrase that made every commander in the Empire sit up. Human combatant identified. Priority Alpha. Blackout protocol triggered. The crowd didn't understand. But the brass did. She wasn't a smuggler. She wasn't a dissident. She was something far more dangerous. She rolled to her side, coughing blood, but smiling. Because now they knew. Now they remembered. The Empire had spent decades suppressing data, erasing files, burying records. But some memories refused to die. Some names carried weight. She wasn't alone. She never had been. All across the galaxy, similar machines were reporting anomalies, recognizing ancient human combat codes buried in forbidden archives, tagging certain individuals as Priority Alpha. The Empire's cover stories began to unravel. Whispers of Earth's true military history returned. Of the treaties, of the wars not spoken of what humans did to galactic fleets that thought them weak. But here, in the sand, she closed her eyes. The guards were too afraid to approach. The announcer was silent. And somewhere behind the walls, a signal was sent. A ping across systems. A call. She hadn't come here to die. She came here to trigger a memory. One the galaxy had tried desperately to forget. And the galaxy, it seemed, was starting to remember. The woman's body was lifted by medics who hadn't moved a muscle earlier, now scurrying with frantic urgency. Orders came from above. Do not let her die. Do not let her vanish. Get her stable. Keep her contained. Too late. Even unconscious, her presence was a detonator. The footage had been recorded. Millions of civilian devices had captured it. The suppression algorithms were good, but not good enough. Already the images were spreading. The blade. The fall. The words from the dying machine. On outer colonies, exiled veterans recognized the combat form she used to dodge. On fringe worlds, black market engineers identified the device she used to breach the mech's casing. But on Earth, the signal she triggered reached deep. Buried beneath Antarctica, an old warning system flickered on. Vaults stirred. Satellites rotated. A dormant network awakened. The Empire had tried to erase humanity's true past. To paint them as chaotic, primitive, reckless. But they'd forgotten why they'd signed a ceasefire in the first place. They'd forgotten about the humans who didn't lose. And now, one of them had just reminded the galaxy why that memory was worth fearing. Not with bombs. Not with fleets. With blood, sand, and a knife. And she wasn't done. The message traveled faster than light, skipping through relay nodes buried in asteroid belts, dark nebulae, and derelict communication arrays. The encryption signature was ancient, not imperial, not corporate, not even galactic standard. It carried a key known only to one origin, Earth. The dormant Earth Defense Network had registered the signal, and for the first time in over a century, the blackout lights across the human vaults blinked green. Protocol R9 activated. High above the Empire's core world, the Imperial War Council convened. No alarms were raised, not openly. Instead, doors locked. Counselors' veins went cold. The footage had gone viral before they could suppress it. The woman in yellow, battered but alive, had sparked a movement they couldn't contain. Sub-Empire vassal states began whispering. Other border sectors pulled surveillance logs, checking for similar anomalies. Some found them. All buried them. But Earth had seen it. And Earth was never supposed to see anything again. Admiral Kirix of the 3rd Outer Command stared at the decrypted footage on a secure screen. He'd been a child during the last human engagement. He remembered the whispered stories his father told before being silenced by Imperial intelligence. He saw her movement frame by frame. Not random. Not desperate. Intentional. Rehearsed. Military. We should have glassed that rock, General Rovar growled. He was one of the few surviving officers from the last human-imperial conflict. His prosthetic jaw clicked every time he spoke. Now they're awake. Kirix didn't respond. He was already forwarding evacuation orders to his own family's sector. Rovar could posture all he wanted. Those who had fought humans didn't speak of victory. They spoke of survival, of desperation, of the horror that came when human fleets emerged not with overwhelming power, but with perfect, unrelenting precision. On a moon far from the Empire's reach, a group of cybernetic monks retrieved the signal and bowed in silence. One removed a blindfold, showing the burnt remnants of an Earth Alliance tattoo beneath his eye. The monks didn't pray. They prepared. Their vault opened. Inside were sealed crates bearing a symbol the Empire had banned, a 3-starred triangle scorched into black metal. Meanwhile, the woman in yellow lay in a medical stasis chamber beneath the arena. Dozens of Imperial scientists argued about her. Genetic scans returned impossible markers. Neural maps showed military-grade synaptic acceleration, the kind only found in old Earth Spec Ops units that were officially disbanded generations ago, units that were supposed to be myth. She woke before they expected, ripped out the cables, walked barefoot past armed guards who lowered their weapons without realizing it. Not because they feared her, because something deeper, instinctual, told them to. No one stopped her as she stepped into the light of the arena again, this time empty, silent, soaked in the residue of blood and memory. Surveillance drones watched from above. Not one approached. Across the galaxy, human exiles received the signal. On Saturn's Black Ring mining colony, an old sergeant opened a buried cache. In the Varnak scrapyard, a cybernetic engineer replaced his mechanical arm with a weaponized one from the forbidden human first arsenal. On a fringe world, a woman pulled her daughter close and whispered, "They found us. We move at dawn." The Empire issued orders. Silence the incident. Detain the woman. Destroy any known footage. But by then, the data was on millions of civilian drives, off-grid backups, neural archives. Erasure was impossible. What the Empire couldn't know, was that the woman wasn't alone. She was a spark. A contingency. A last-case scenario. Earth had placed operatives throughout the galaxy after the war. Embedded. Hidden. Trained to blend in, disappear, and wait. For a century they did. Their mission was simple: survive. But the reactivation of Protocol R9 changed that. Aboard a derelict human stealth cruiser buried in the crust of a dead star, dormant systems woke. The AI on board blinked back to awareness and resumed countdown protocols. Its last received command: wait for the signal. Engage fallback path Omega Black. Confirm asset alive. The AI scanned the system. Detected the woman's identity. Confirmed genetic lock. Asset was alive. Command accepted. The ship began to power up. Galactic news outlets debated her identity. Some claimed she was a rebel creation. Others insisted it was a setup, a trick to embarrass the Empire. But the civilians, they believed. Especially the ones whose grandparents had told them about the humans. On the capital planet, security footage from the arena was leaked again. This time, with an overlay of ancient human military doctrine side by side with her movements. The synchronization was perfect. That footage was shared more than anything in Imperial history. One analyst, formerly a propaganda officer, defected within 24 hours. His last broadcast was a warning. She is not the threat. She is the warning. The real threat hasn't moved yet. The woman reached a transport station unnoticed. She didn't need to hack it. The system recognized her DNA. The old Earth protocols were still buried in transit architecture the Empire never fully replaced. The transport launched itself without a destination entered. It knew where to go. In the core of the galactic capital, the Emperor himself finally spoke. alone, to his inner circle. We thought we killed their armies. We thought we destroyed their networks. We even thought we unmade their myth. But we missed one thing. He turned to the glowing footage of the woman leaping onto the machine and carving its chest open. We forgot what they really were. Not conquerors. Not warriors. Survivors. The woman arrived at a mining colony turned safehouse. Inside, 5 others waited. Each bore scars. Each carried weapons not seen since the last war. One stood, saluted, and said, "Orders, Commander?" She answered with a single word. "Begin." The war hadn't started yet. But every Empire sensor flared to life. Patrols increased. Civilian freedoms tightened. Political prisoners vanished. Border colonies started conscripting locals. Panic wore a diplomatic mask. Because they knew. It wasn't just that she had survived. It was what her survival meant. That Earth never gave up. That the ghosts they buried didn't rest. That the humans, in their silence, had waited. And now they were done waiting. The silence that followed the humans' intervention was deafening. A pause, pregnant with meaning, fell over the arena as the Galactic soldier stepped back, nursing a dislocated arm and fractured pride. The woman he tried to kill stood now, breathing hard, eyes calm. The crowd didn't cheer. They watched. They waited. The rules had already changed. The human didn't gloat. He didn't even look at the crowd. He only watched the soldier, daring him to move again. The Galactic general, high above in the command box, stared down with mounting horror. This wasn't just a warrior. It was a message. A message written in blood, grit, and precision. Word spread fast. The entire arena feed was broadcast live to every major channel across the Empire. The initial ratings spike had been about the novelty, a woman sentenced to die in combat. But the real draw came after the human acted. Replay loops showed him catching the plasma blade barehanded, redirecting it midair with such force that it embedded into the arena wall. Military analysts scrambled for identification. No tags. No faction insignia. No records. Just a man. A human. Anonymous and lethal. A ghost with muscles. In the barracks, the surviving arena fighters stared at the screens. For years they'd laughed at humans. Primitive, emotional, chaotic. But now? Their eyes betrayed something else. Not awe. Not envy. Fear. The council chambers of the Galactic Empire erupted into argument. Who authorized human participation? What faction sent him? Had Earth declared war? Nobody had answers. Only one thing was clear. The human had violated every known limit, and yet the crowd didn't boo. They cheered. On the station, the woman wasn't taken back to her cell. She was escorted by armed guards, more to protect others from her, now seen as aligned with the human. She asked no questions. She didn't have to. The human walked beside her. Quiet. Watchful. They took her to a debriefing room disguised as a hospital. Medical bots patched her wounds. Administrators asked leading questions. She answered none. When one of them raised his voice, the human stepped forward. The questioning ended. A day passed. Then another. Whispers rippled across the station. Some said she had been chosen, others that she'd been rescued by one of Earth's ancient protectors. The truth didn't matter. Only perception did. And perception, in the Empire, was everything. The general who ordered her execution convened a private war council. Analysts predicted uprisings. Civil unrest. Human involvement was already destabilizing. He barked orders for martial law across outer sectors. But deep inside, he knew. The fear wasn't the woman. It was who had come for her. The human had made no demands, issued no threats. He didn't need to. His actions were the doctrine. His silence, louder than a declaration. On the third day, an envoy arrived. A human ship, not sleek like the Empire's vessels but functional, massive, and terrifying in its simplicity. No identification. No fleet escort. It hovered above the station with no weapons charged, and yet it caused full-scale panic in the hangars below. The human who saved the woman didn't salute. He didn't meet the envoy. He simply nodded once and vanished into the ship. She followed. No one stopped her. The doors closed. The ship left. No trace. No signatures. Just gone. 2 days later, the entire arena system went offline. All scheduled executions were suspended. By week's end, the council banned human combat involvement indefinitely. But it was too late. Systems previously loyal to the Empire began questioning orders. Governors refused to send new prisoners. Colonies opened communication channels with Earth directly, bypassing Imperial censors. Information flowed like water through cracked walls. Stories spread like viruses. Some said the human was a war god. Others said he was Earth's first response. All agreed on one thing: he was not alone. In the shadows of deep space, fleets began to move. Unmarked ships, running dark, whispering through the stars. The Empire tried to clamp down, but every effort only made the human myth stronger. Meanwhile, in a neutral system, the woman stood before a quiet human council. No grand chamber. No pageantry. Just a table. She told them everything: the arena, the fight, the crowd. And the fear she saw in the soldiers' eyes before the humans stepped in. One of them asked her a single question: "Would you fight beside us if it came to that?" She didn't hesitate. Yes. That's all they needed. Across the galaxy, stations flickered with coded messages. Earth was quiet. But its silence was purposeful. The Empire held a press conference. The general, his arm in a sling from an unrelated accident, claimed stability had returned. That the woman was an isolated incident. That humanity had been warned. The media nodded. But nobody believed him. Especially not when, 2 days later, a second arena execution was interrupted by another human. Different build. Same presence. Same outcome. Empire forces tried to intervene. They failed. Now the Empire didn't just face rebellion, it faced an idea. That humans weren't just soldiers. They were protectors. They didn't conquer. They ended injustice. Without banners. Without demands. Only action. All across the fringe systems, the narrative changed. Propaganda collapsed under the weight of raw footage. Children grew up hearing tales of the woman who defied death and the human who silenced an empire without saying a word. Recruitment among the Empire's enemies soared. Defections within its ranks increased. Not out of ideology but instinct. Survival. Because if the humans were coming, you wanted to be on their side. The woman became more than a symbol. She trained. She led. She didn't speak of revenge, only clarity. That no system should profit from suffering. That no arena should define someone's worth. In a final broadcast, intercepted across 17 sectors, her voice was clear. We didn't start this, but we will end it. Not through destruction, but through exposure. Behind her, a dozen humans stood, quiet and unreadable. The feed cut out. The Empire tried to counter with old tactics: sanctions, blockades, assassinations. None worked. The humans had already slipped the leash. They weren't marching in lines. They were moving in shadows, guided by principle, not protocol. And everywhere they went, the same question echoed: who was the first one? The one in the arena? No one knew. Some said he was a myth, others swore they'd seen him in 3 systems at once. It didn't matter. Because when the next Empire officer raised a weapon toward a civilian, he hesitated. Not out of compassion. Out of fear. Because he knew. Somewhere in the dark, a human was watching. And if he acted? He'd regret it the moment the fight began.